Okay, so before we start our session, I would like to give you a brief introduction of our facilitator today, Dr. Victoria Nalule. So, Dr. Victoria Nalule is an energy and mining professional and consultant with extensive experience working on various projects in different parts of the globe. She is a holder of PhD in international energy law and policy. Dr. Nalule is the founder and executive director of the African Energy and Minerals Management Initiative. She was previously involved as a research fellow with the DFID-funded. She has also worked on various projects. Allow me to welcome our facilitator to today's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luxon, for the brief introduction. And thank you very much, ALSA, for inviting me here. So today's session, which is focused on energy law, climate change, it's a very important session, especially considering the current developments in the energy sector, but also in the climate change sectors. So the question today is, what is the role of law in ensuring energy access? What is the role of law in tackling climate change challenges which we're experiencing? So I know I have already been introduced, but basically I will just add on a few things that have been said about me. By introduction, Dr. Victoria Nalule. I got my PhD in international energy law and policy at the age of 29, below 3 years, in less than 3 years. And I got this from the Center for Energy, Petroleum, Mineral and Policy at the University of Dundee. I'm a lawyer by profession. I have a law degree and a diploma in legal practice. And I have done lots of work in the energy and mining sectors, including working with various organizations, but also I'm an author of several books focused on energy and mining. The recent book being Energy Transitions and the Future of the African Energy Sector. I also have a book which is really important for this discussion, focused on energy access. The book is called Energy Poverty and Access Challenges in Sub-Saharan Africa, the Role of Regionalism, where I look at energy law. I also look at climate change law in different African countries. Besides that, I've done lots of work with respect to the mining sector, including documentaries. I also have a book on mining and the law in Africa, exploring the social and environmental issues. I have an upcoming edited book on international arbitration in the African energy and mining sectors. So mostly my expertise is on energy and mining, and I'm very happy to be here. So I'll start off the discussion in a few minutes. If Luxon can let me know if I should start. So in the first session, I would start by introducing you to the energy sector before we even start on the role of law. What is energy? What do you understand by energy? Why is it that energy is important in African countries and also globally? What is the relationship between the energy sector and the achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? So basically, the energy sector, when we're talking about energy, we're talking about oil, gas, we're talking about electricity. But in summary, what we should focus on right now is having access to modern energy and how the law can help us in achieving that. So basically, Goal 7 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is focused on access to modern energy. And in brief, access to modern energy simply means having access to electricity for lighting and also LNG, liquefied natural gas for cooking. So that is modern energy. And it can be distinguished from traditional energy by looking at the types of energy that are used. For instance, in traditional energy, you're focusing on candles for lighting, you're focusing on firewood for cooking. So that is traditional energy. And I'm sure you will all agree with me. You have relatives in villages who are relying on traditional energy, or even sometimes back at our homes, we're using charcoal for cooking. That is still traditional energy. But remember, traditional energy has no place in the modern society. If we want to progress as African countries, if we want to develop, if we want to go through industrialization, if we want to go through urbanization, we need to ensure that everyone has access to modern energy. So this marks the importance of having access to modern energy in our everyday life, because you will agree with me, you cannot have industries that are going to be using firewood. Are you going to have industries or factories that are going to rely on candles? You know, it becomes impossible for developing countries like Nigeria. Myself, I'm from Uganda, Kenya, and other countries. It becomes impossible for us to achieve economic development if we cannot tackle the challenge of energy access. So in this light, actually in this first voice note, I'd like to emphasize the crucial role of achieving Goal 7 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Because in my argument, actually in my book, the book I had told you about, the book which is focused on energy poverty and access challenges in sub-Saharan Africa, the role of regionalism. In that book, one of the main arguments is we cannot achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals without achieving Goal 7 on access to modern energy. Because you talk about Goal 1, which is poverty eradication. How are you going to eradicate poverty when most of the people have no access to electricity? Remember, data shows that over 600 million people lack access to modern energy, and many people are relying on inefficient energy forms, including firewood. So how exactly are we going to tackle poverty in our countries if we don't have access to modern energy? And in this current COVID-19 pandemic, we have realized the crucial role of the healthcare services. But how are we going to treat people in hospitals when some hospitals have no access to electricity? How are the equipments going to work without access to modern energy? So if you connect the role of energy in our everyday life, you realize that it's an urgent need for developing countries, especially those in Africa, to first tackle their energy access challenges. Because without access to modern energy, we are not moving anywhere. We cannot tolerate energy poverty in the 21st century. But unfortunately, that is one of the main issues right now. That is one of the main challenges in African countries. So how do we tackle energy poverty and at the same time be able to tackle the climate change challenges we're experiencing? So in this discussion, we're going to explore the role of law in tackling both energy poverty and climate change challenges in African countries. In case you have any questions, please feel free to ask the questions through the moderator, and then I'll be able to respond to you. So in this second voice note, I want to focus on the role of law in the energy sector. Because remember in the previous one, I told you about the nexus between energy law and climate change. And also having given you the various energy challenges we face on the continent, now as lawyers, we have to ask ourselves, what is our role? What can we do to solve some of the challenges we're experiencing? Because remember, law, it's a wide field. You are aware you have criminal law, you have family law. Now we're talking about energy law. But the question is, what is the role of law in tackling energy access challenges? First and foremost, for governments to take action, governments, region organizations, and also international organizations, for them to take action in solving this problem, they have to have legal measures and they should have the rights to actually take action to solve the problem. They should recognize the problem, and after recognizing the problem, you set up policies. I'm sure you're aware in your different countries you have energy policies. Some of these policies, they can be in the form of the oil and gas policy. Other people can just call it generally an energy policy. Others have renewable energy policies. So all these are some kind of policies that are used in various countries. So through these policies, always they recognize the challenges countries face in a specific sector. For instance, we're talking about the energy sector, and if it's an energy policy in a country, it will obviously take into recognition the energy challenges in the country, the resources, energy resources in the country, and how a country can move forward to tackling the energy challenges, but also to meet the various visions, missions, and goals that have been set in those policies. For the policies to have effect, they should have a legal backing. That's where energy law comes in. So you will have for instance, you can have the oil and gas law. Other countries will have the renewable energy laws, energy efficiency acts, in form of acts. So as lawyers, you have to ask yourself, how are we enacting these laws? What is the impact of this energy law in resolving the various energy challenges we face? Because remember now, with the various moves to transition to a low carbon economy, because of the 2015 Paris Agreement that basically emphasizes the need for all countries to tackle climate change, various laws have been enacted. But the question should be, what is the impact of these various energy laws that are being enacted right now? Even climate change laws have been enacted. In Uganda, they have the climate change bill, which will almost be set to become a law. I don't know when, but the bill is there because we reviewed the bill. So the question for lawyers will be, how can we ensure that we use the law to tackle energy access challenges? And one of the things that you have to focus on is the issue of ensuring that there are enough finances for us to tackle the various energy challenges we face. Because remember, the energy sector, it's a very, very expensive sector. Energy investments are very expensive ventures requiring lots and lots of capital, which in most cases are beyond the reach of African governments or even any government. So in this respect, you find yourself needing investment laws that can help you to attract the necessary international energy investors in your country. So now here you're getting the nexus between energy law and other laws. For instance, energy law and investment laws. How is the investment climate in your country? Is it attractive enough to bring in the international oil companies and the renewable energy companies into your country to invest so that we can be able to tackle the challenge of energy poverty? How adequate are the investment laws to ensure that even the local investors, because remember, you also have to empower the local investors to ensure that even the local energy investors in your country can take part in the energy sector. So this is one of the ways how the law works in tackling energy access. It's not only in the petroleum laws or energy laws, but also other laws like investment laws. How are your banking laws? Now you have to bring in the issue of land laws, because remember, no project, for an energy project to be successful, they have to ensure that they have access to land. How are the land laws in your countries? How adequate are they to ensure that the local communities are given compensation when their land is being taken to for these projects, energy or even oil projects? When you're talking about also land laws, you have to bring in the nexus with environmental laws. Because now I'll give you the example. Energy, I told you energy includes oil, gas, and renewables. I'll give you the example of fossil fuels. They have various negative impacts on the environment. I'm sure you've heard of the oil spills, you've heard of gas flaring, and what is the necessary law to tackle these negative impacts associated with energy, some of the energy projects like fossil fuels? It's the environmental laws. So in this session, you have to understand the nexus between energy law and other relevant laws, as I have outlined, including investment laws, the land laws, the environmental laws. So all these are very key for lawyers to be able to tackle the energy access challenges we face in our countries, but through law, because you can't tackle these challenges without enacting the necessary laws. And it doesn't stop at enacting. You have to ensure that the laws are efficient and adequate, whereby it can ensure a win-win situation for both energy investors, but also for the countries and the local communities, because no one should be left behind. And in this respect, I would like to actually throw more light on some of the challenges we experienced in the past, because historically, I'm sure you are aware that our countries have enacted various laws, but due to colonialism and also post-colonialism, most of these laws were not favorable for African countries and other developing countries. And you'll find that some of the laws were just favoring international investors like oil and gas companies. And this explains why in most countries that are rich with natural resources, not just oil and gas or energy resources, but even minerals, most of these countries are very poor countries. And one of the reasons, besides obviously corruption and lack of transparency, one of the other reasons is the poor laws or legislations we had in the past, because most of these legislations were focused on a particular group of people who is going to benefit from this law. And that explains why for a very long time we're having various reforms in the energy sector. For energy laws, we're having various reforms like land reforms. These are all intended to ensure that we have a win-win situation whereby no stakeholder is left behind when we're exploiting the energy resources. So in this last voice note for the lecture, I want to bring in the nexus between law and tackling the climate change challenges we're experiencing. So basically, I'm sure you're aware that we're all transitioning to a low carbon economy. Most countries are focused on tackling climate change, and one of the ways of tackling climate change is to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. And as a lawyer, you have to ask yourself, what is the best way of ensuring that we are tackling energy access challenges, but at the same time, we are also mindful of the environment? Is it practical for us to just forget about oil and gas as a way of tackling climate change without thinking about the energy access challenges we're experiencing? That's one of the questions. And the other question would be, what can we do to ensure that countries can actually utilize all their energy resources and at the same time be mindful of the environment? So in this session, I want to tackle the nexus between energy access, climate change, and also the law basically. So as a lawyer, you need to always find innovative ways of ensuring that the laws you're enacting are not going to be so detrimental to your people. We have seen the global move to transition to a low carbon economy. We have seen many climate change activists who have come up to discourage countries from utilizing oil and gas. And obviously, most of the people would be like, no one is forcing countries not to utilize their fossil fuels. But remember, with the laws we are enacting at the national level, at the regional level, and also at the international level, these laws and policies are forcing companies to shift to renewables, which is not a bad thing, because obviously we should all be concerned about climate change. But remember, with the reduction on investments in fossil fuels globally, it means that even nationally, for countries like Nigeria or even Uganda that are interested in developing their oil and gas sectors, they're going to be affected. Because like I told you, these investments are very expensive. And in this respect, most countries are very eager to attract international oil and gas companies that can invest. So with the laws that are focused on tackling climate change, we have seen a reduction in finances for oil and gas projects, and they have become risky projects in the 21st century. So as a lawyer, you need to strike a balance of ensuring that you enact laws that can, on the one hand, ensure that you tackle the energy access challenges you're experiencing in your country, and then on the other hand, they have to tackle the challenges of climate change. And how do you strike this balance? This is the question I'm actually asking you. I'd like to hear your views as a lawyer. How can you strike a balance when you are enacting laws that are going to affect the energy sector and also climate change? How can you ensure that the laws will not be so detrimental to countries that want to tackle the energy access challenges in the country? Remember, with the expected boom in urbanization in African countries and also industrialization, coupled with the estimated population growth, it means that countries will require more energy to meet the population growth, urbanization, and industrialization. So in this respect, you need to strike a balance and ensure that poor countries are not made poorer because of the laws that you are enacting. Poor countries are not made poorer because they cannot meet the energy needs of their countries. Poor countries are not made poorer because 80% of some of the population in developing countries, they're relying on traditional energy, including firewood. So this is the challenge we are facing as lawyers and as experts, to strike a balance and see that your countries are not left behind because of the global move to transition to a low carbon economy and tackle climate change. But anyway, one of the ways of ensuring that we strike a balance is to embrace the various forms of technologies like carbon capture to ensure that countries can still utilize their fossil fuels, but in a sustainable and environmentally friendly manner. So this marks the end of the last session, which basically gives a snapshot of the nexus between climate change, energy, and also law. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and also responding to your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nalule. I have a question with regards to, let me say, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that the energy sector might face in future? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. So I'll start with the opportunities. Some of the opportunities that the energy sector presents right now, and also the opportunities we should be looking out for, are opportunities in the renewable energy sectors, job creation for people who are interested in sustainability, for people who are interested in investing in renewable energy. Those are investment opportunities, and also for experts who want to take part in these initiatives. This would be an opportunity for you to actually enhance your knowledge so that you can be able to present yourself as an expert in sustainability, an expert in the renewable energy sector, an expert in climate change. Because remember, for every challenge you experience, there are always opportunities. So with the energy access challenges we're experiencing, it presents opportunities for people to come up with solutions. And these solutions can come in form of investments. They can come in form of expert knowledge. Like for lawyers, is there a law you have thought about that can be used to actually tackle both the challenges in a way that countries are not left behind when they are tackling climate change? So those are some of the opportunities. Then for the challenges, where we are likely to see a situation where we have many energy poor people, especially in developing countries. Because remember, with the move to transition to a low carbon economy and tackle climate change, it implies that many companies and countries are reducing investments in oil and gas. And with the anticipated boom in urbanization, the boom in population growth, and also industrialization, this means that we shall require more energy to meet the population growth. Because if right now we have over 600 million people who have no access to electricity, what will happen when the population increases? Won't the number just double? So we are facing a challenge where for countries that are energy poor or energy insecure, they are likely to experience more energy challenges, because obviously when the demand for energy increases, the supply should also increase. But if the supply is going to reduce because of lack of investment in some of the energy sectors like oil and gas, then that means we are likely to have a situation where we'll have more demand, but then less supply, and more people will end up relying on traditional energy, which has various negative impacts, including indoor air pollution. So that's one of the challenges. But remember, where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. So this gives us a chance to find ways as lawyers on how we can tackle the challenge and also come up with innovative solutions to ensure that we tackle both energy access challenges and climate change.
Thank you so much, Madam. As we come to the end of the program, I would like to call upon the chairperson of ALSA, Mr. Atiku, to render a brief vote of thanks to Dr. Nalule. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victoria Nalule, for taking your time, despite your very tight schedule, to come on here on board and discuss with us about the very tricky and complex area of energy law and how it intersects with really environmental law, climate change, and other aspects of the law. I was listening very keenly as you took us through, because I'm very passionate about the energy sector, My area of interest, particularly my area of research, has been energy law with particular interest in electricity regulation, electricity governance, and climate change, particularly. I would like to express our heartfelt appreciations to you for making out the time to come here and discuss with us. We know that you're you're very busy and in much demand. You're practically a household name as far as the African energy sector is concerned, and this means a lot to us because at ALSA, one of the foundations of our organization is capacity building, how to open up opportunities for Africa's law students to explore areas of specialization and areas of interest to develop their capacity and perhaps be better equipped to give back to the African society as responsible, socially responsible citizens and contribute to the growth of the economy and virtually every sector aspect of our life through the instrumentality of the law. We are committed to that, and we hope that you're going to avail yourself in the future to give us your time, your expertise, your resources to help us accomplish the dream of building a very vibrant and well-informed community of African law students who are in solidarity with one another, who are into the exchange of information, the exchange of ideas, and cohesion, and overall the development of the legal profession, because we know that the challenges maybe bordering the quality of legal education virtually in all law schools and law faculties across the continent is at an alarming proportion. So there is a disconnect between the academia and the industry, and that's why it's informed the choice of our topics to ensure that we look into other areas that we can bring professionals from the industry to come and bridge that gap. Nobody will teach you the intersection between energy, climate change, and the law in the classroom, at least at the undergraduate level. I'm very certain that nobody will do that, especially now that we are facing issues of energy poverty and the twin challenge of ensuring that we work towards energy sustainability, energy efficiency without hurting our climate, knowing fully well that the field of energy law and climate change and environmental law have developed or have grown from fundamentally different structures. But with the pressing issues that we are facing, issues that are informed by perhaps the growing rate at which we are seeing the combustion of fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emissions, it poses a pressing concern for a convergence between energy law, environmental law, and other aspects of like land use that you mentioned. So thank you very much. We thank you very, very warmly and wish you all the best in your endeavors. We're very grateful to everyone, our moderator, Loksan Tibai, our esteemed audience for making out the time, and ultimately to you, Dr. Victoria Nalule. God bless you.
Thank you very much for having me, and it has been my pleasure to be able to give this lecture on the nexus between energy, climate change, and the law. And I'm sure our future is in your hands, the young people, to ensure that as Africans, we're able to tackle the pressing challenges of energy access. We are able to fight energy poverty, but at the same time, we are also able to tackle the climate change challenges we're experiencing. So thank you very much, and do not hesitate to contact me for other engagements. So I thank you and I wish you the best. Bye-bye.